Hi, and welcome to I have to check and see what week it is. It is week 7. Oh my heavens, it's week 7. I can't believe, oh my gosh, I just made him rhyme and I didn't even mean to. It is week 7. I can't believe it. We are really moving along. So, let me share my screen so we can go over what's happening in week 7. So, week 7 is on adolescent cognition and cognitive development. Back in week 3, we talked about physical changes that were happening in adolescence, which included some physical changes that were happening to adolescent brains, right? Some information about brain development and changes that were happening as far as growth and neural synapses. And we're going to continue learning about that this week. You also learned about some theories. You learned about uh, Piaget, and we're going to keep focusing on that, and Vygotsky, and we're going to look at that too. So there are some readings and watchings for you to dive into. And I might actually add one more so that you have that. This is a video on adolescent cognition, thinking in a new key. It is a little dated, but it has important information. There are two readings. Just so you know, they have the same name. However, just so you know, they are very different readings. So this talks about really thinking and the elements of adolescent, what we call cognition, and thinking processes, whereas this reading, and I'll go back to here, which also has the same name, but a different author, talks about some of those things, but also talks about changes in the adolescent brain, talks about theorists. We've already really talked about Kohlberg and Gilligan in moral development, but this talks about Piaget and David Elkind, who was a student of Piaget's. Um, David Elkind is still alive, and he built on some of Piaget's work, and talks about more of the developmental pieces of adolescence and adolescent brains. So, again, does talk about thinking, talks about memory and storage and how we think and important things and how that changes in adolescence, which is important for us to think about because that's the age group that we're going to be working with. And when we think about teaching and we think about how to help students learn, that is important. So all of this information will help us. So there is that. Then we have, sorry, it's just taking a moment to load. We have some videos, Piaget on formal operations, 3 different videos on Vygotsky. They're all pretty short. A video on Carol Dweck and growth mindset, a reading on executive functions, and then a video on brain changes during adolescence and how the brain actually changes in adolescence, which is important. There's some slides and chapter notes. And then there's a participation task for you to respond to for this week. If you haven't submitted your fieldwork timesheet, please do so. Um, and then this is your first observation. So remember, the first step in completing this observation project is to number 1, have a field placement. Be in your field placement, complete hours in your field placement. Okay. The third step is identify a focus child. And last week, in week 6, I asked you to complete the focus child report. So, and there's a video here where I go over how to complete your focus child report. Um, and also, you can still submit your school placement reflection. I'm flexible if you're just starting your field work. Start with those elements first. Then, after you've identified your focus child and you've had the opportunity to get to know them for a few observations, then you're going to take notes during your observations so that you can write your first observation summary on physical development, peer relationships, and identity development. And I have a separate video where I go over that. Okay, so I look forward to seeing your contributions to our learning community. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you at the end of the week in my reflection video. Be well.